For the latest top tips, reviews and advice, please subscribe below.
Hello and welcome to Attwoolls Outdoors with me, Mike. Today I'm giving you a bit of kind of a pitching tutorial video on a product from Opus. So here with me today, I've got the Opus T46. So it's a nice big 6-person tent. And one of the kind of unique features really about it is the fact that it self-inflates. But we're not really here to know about that. Let's see how we pick this bad boy up. So in here what I've got is the main body of the tent. Also I've got the additional wall kit that you can basically add on to it. We've kind of bundled it up in a little bit of package deal anyway, so we're kind of including that into the price. So everything we're going to go through now is as you would if you're going to set it up for the first time. Now, what you do have included with the tent is actually a footprint ground sheet. So the footprint ground sheet itself, the joys of that is actually you would put that down first. You can sort of pick and choose where it's going to be. For me, because I'm literally just pitching this and take it back down, I'm not going to use the ground sheet for that section, but they are an incredibly helpful thing to have, and so this is included, you might as well utilise it. So, first thing we'll do is lay the tent out, pick where we're going to pitch it on our site, and get our orientation. Especially want to sort of face the nice view, of course. So, that's the back. We'll spin it all round. We have done almost a separate video to look at kind of the smaller version of this, which is kind of the 4-person, i.e. the T24. So we've done a separate video about that as well for you guys to see. Ideally, when you come to place the tent, you want to completely cover the footprint. It's worth making note after we use one pegs for this, just to save pegs of the tent itself. So first and foremost, we get in a position. Ideally, what we want to do is basically peg the main kind of 4 corners, or I sort of say 6 corners. These are basically the main 2 corners of where the ground sheet is kind of fully sewn in. And then the front 2 corners where the canopy is as well. So we'll just pop one in here. Ideally, when you insert the pegs, you want them to go in about a 45-degree angle. The pegs that come with it are like a standard steel peg, but if you wanted to, you can obviously purchase some additional ones. I think a D-size peg for the main corners, which takes most of the main strain of it, is definitely worth doing. But again, by going at a 45-degree angle, what you do is you get a much solid base. You want to pull directly against what we've got located there. And again, just kind of hammer it in. Again, nice mallet is kind of very crucial for getting a really nice tension and getting the pegs in. Of course, don't go too far down, so it's always a bit of a pain to get the pegs directly out as well. So what you'll find is there's a webbing loop strap on the bottom of everything, which we'll pull that against ourselves there just to get it nice and square. These are only kind of approximate pegs, just so when it inflates, it's going to sit and stand up. So what you might find is after we kind of inflate it, it doesn't need it particularly poking. You can kind of move it around a little bit. But that obviously comes with it at a time. Like anything, the more and more you kind of pitch the tent, the better you can kind of come at it, and you're going to get used to it as well. So they're the kind of main 4 corners we've got with the tent itself. Now what we're just going to throw the canopy forward. Just peg that. Ideally, you want to peg that dead in line with the tent itself here as well, just because then we retain that sort of perfect kind of rectangle shape. With the beam itself, you can kind of go a little bit, a bit of tension. I don't go too much just because you've got to part the door at the front here as well. Now there is like a webbing tape that stretches between the front canopy. That is kind of designed to stop you oversplaying it. Sometimes it depends on how you do it. It sort of clips or unclips. What we'll just quickly do is re-clip that back in there, just to yeah, I'll set this one because there's no adjustment on that at all. Just helps keep everything just so. As you can see, it gives me a straight away a nice guide of how far I need to pull away from that side. And again, pulling directly away from the very point, we'll try and keep it in line. As mentioned previously, I kind of approximate pegging points. You haven't got to go too gun-ho with it. The next thing we're going to do actually is utilise, pump it up. So, supplied with the centre salve, you do get some additional batteries. There's these really nice little pockets located on the bag itself, which will allow us to store them in there, so it keeps it all neat and tidily in there. The battery cell is like that. Small little capsule, almost like a shotgun cartridge, but there's about 3,000 milliamps in that, so decent sort of pressure. We're just going to pepper these down. On this particular model, there are 3 points where the pumps go in, actually 4. But before we insert anything, what we want to do is just insert the valves. So there's an inflation and deflation valve, which is what we call like a Boston valve. So you're going to screw that in, otherwise the pump keeps pushing air into it, and all that hard work will come straight back out. So again, with these, you want to kind of start with a bit of a counter thread, just to make sure that when you actually come to thread it in properly, it's not going to then cross thread it, because it is a plastic thread, so it is more inclined to do that rather than say like a metal thread. You can, if you want to, for any reason that the batteries were not charged or weren't working, for example, you can use that as the manual speed pump. So that works out really quite nicely as well. The batteries themselves can also run not only as to pump the sensor itself, but what you can also do with them is use them to then power devices. So actually, I need to get a couple of more the battery out of the way. So, okay, so what we're going to do is each beam will have its own little battery. So we're just quite neatly and tidily insert it in. You'll see which way it needs to go. Press the button, you can hear that pump going on its own accord. So we'll do that with all of these tubes. It's quite a little clever system. Means you haven't got to mess around with pumping anything up. So that's all now going at its own kind of accord. You can quite happily now sit back, relax. Let it work. Catch some sun, do what you want, you sort the kids out, maybe have a game of football or something. So it's quite a nice little way of all the hard effort is actually taken out of it. And merely to be fair, until the tent is fully inflated, you don't want to start pegging it out, just because what you might do essentially is distort the overall shape of the tent. But what you can do is you can probably do a little bit of prep by undoing your guy ropes if you have tied them up, or if you want to neat and tidy a few things up. But in essence, we're pretty much going to wait till it to fully inflate. Each beam has obviously got its own individual pump and its own individual battery pack on the T48. This differs a little bit to the T24, i.e. the smaller model, the 4-person, where you have 3 battery packs that pump up all the tubes. So the other thing this will also do is also pump up the braces that you have in the roof section as well. So it's quite a comprehensive little system. And of course, what you could do if you essentially one battery pack was not enough charge, or if you got to charge it, each pump, or battery pack I should say, will probably do pretty much a tent about 3 times. So you could use one on and on and on, so you haven't got to worry about it. But what we'll find is it'll get to a certain pressure. It takes, I think the inflation time is around about sort of 7-8 minutes, depending on obviously, well, how much power the battery packs have got. But as you can see, I'm sitting here, not doing anything, it's working away, and it will basically get up to 7 psi. So 7 psi is kind of the recommendation, but we haven't got to worry about that. It will cut off more than happily when it gets to that point as well. I guess now I might move myself a little bit out of the way. But one thing you might need to do is that little bit at the end, is just give it a little bit of assistance to get it kind of fully up. Let me just grab one last bit. Yeah, so again, it's going to keep building and building pressure up. What you almost do is want to be seeing how kind of firm it feels, where it's going to be firm enough to take its own weight. It's one of the things you can probably just let it do its thing. You will see it kind of wanting to almost force itself up. And it's a good opportunity to see, make sure that all the beams are inflating quite happily as you go with it. There are some sort of internal taps as well. Sometimes if you, for example, can't pack it away properly, or you forgot to, you've isolated some things, you've got to make sure those are open. But that comes into the packing side of things, which we'll certainly go through in a little bit of time to sort of show you how to pack it away, how to get all the air out. It's almost worth mentioning I've not really gone through a lot of details about the tent itself. We've got a separate kind of review video going into the nitty-gritty details of how all the specification, how it all works, and you get a bit more of a better kind of 360-degree view of the tent itself. So, yeah, we're getting there. What you can probably do at this point, sometimes making sure the beams aren't kinking. Sometimes when it's folded, they might say sort of fold in itself, and it stops the air coming directly through. Having side doors and things like that open really helps, because what it does allows air to come into the tent, and it's going to naturally then want to sort of pop itself up. And see, here we go, we want to get into a good sort of pressure where it will almost pop up, and then we're into a freestanding position. So in fact, I reckon we're probably there now. So what we'll do now is just kind of lift it in position. At this point here, you're probably best to go inside of it. Just give it that last little bit of helping hand. So as you can see here, from the strain point of view, it doesn't take an awful lot. And while after that, again, you can sit back, relax. But certainly the main thing, obviously, probably with the pitching and the overall kind of dealing with it, is the overall weight. It's obviously not the lightest tent, around about sort of 58 kilograms, so bigger sort of pack size. So it's not the pumping that's actually probably more the strenuous part. It's just getting in and out of the car. Now, admittedly, there's two of you. There's handles on either side, and that makes life a bit easier. As mentioned, the front, you'll carry on pumping up full pressure. What we can do from this one here is just start to peg it out. So what I would recommend doing startly is starting with the main webbing straps at the front and back. It gives better tension to the roof section. Now, this is almost bracer beams in the roof. You haven't got to worry about it too much. Again, I'm going to utilise my own pegs for the time being. So again, it's the details I quite like. It's obviously like webbing straps. You can pull that out. Onto the plastic. So it's always worth sort of slacking off the guy rope. You want it to be a nice kind of weight of tent, so it's not pulling directly down, it's sort of pulling outwards. One thing that's quite remarkable, I think, with this as well, is how kind of quiet in comparison to a different kind of pump system it takes to the tent itself. It's not actually overly loud, so when you're pitching last things nights, you're not disturbing a lot of the neighbours and stuff. You've got the front sorted, with the back. There's a built-on roof cover to it as well, so again, that's one thing you would probably always leave in place. You haven't got to worry about that too much. But as a whole, again, nice and easy. At this point here, I can still hear the beam a little bit, but it's that kind of quiet you genuinely can't sort of hear what's going on the beam. Directs, ideally you want to peg sort of directly in line, so you want to follow kind of the seam line of it. There's a flex part to it here as well, so that works really quite nicely. And then you've got a little Velcro tab, so you bring the guide looms back nice and neatly on there. So structurally we're now quite secure. We're going to get the doors down before we do anything else, just to make sure we don't overstress any of the doorways and can then reopen it. Obviously that's quite crucial. Now you can peg it in any which way you want to go to. Me, what I'm going to do, which is cut out there, is I'm going to sit on the front door at this point here. Again, making sure I don't over tension anything. This makes life a lot easier. So there are two zips located on this door as well. So you can bring it, start it from sort of left to right or right to left. So you've got a lot of options in that terms. So just find two zip pullers, feed that directly on. It's almost worth mentioning as well not to choose the thicker zip on the front side, just because what you'll find is there's an optional zip there for like the Opus mate. So you go one zip directly up, and then there's a toggle point located there, just hold that door and hang it. What happens is the door then zips back up to the centre point. This is why you don't want to kind of have it pitched too tightly, just because you then struggle to get this additional zip in. It's not tight, but too tight. And then we've got a nice solid front end. So we can now, we've got everything kind of pitched, go around and just tweak it as we go. Yeah, it doesn't matter really too much whether you kind of decide to do the base first. I kind of like to work just my way around the tent, doing guy ropes or anything that kind of comes at it really. Sometimes it's a bit easier just obviously before you pack it away, do all the guy ropes up. For me, I think it's much smoother sort of length angle. As long as you're not too worried about sort of the whole, everything kind of being everywhere. It does increase pitch time, but it's quite nice having it a bit more thorough. Yeah, a bit of extra tension, but in terms of pitch time between, say, the T24 and then also the T48, I don't think it's that much in it really. And as you can see, it can be done by one person. There's probably more time and effort spent in waiting for it to go up than it is. I mean, the pegging out point, that's always take a bit of time. More hands than area on that front. So again, just trying to work our way around the tent. Probably just because they're all tied up, it's going to take a bit longer to do the actual pegging points. But again, I think you can see you want those triangles, for example, where it wants to be pulled. So you want to keep that triangle so it's sort of, this point here is under tension into the whole way. Because then it will also accordingly peg out things. Now, with the back-to-backs, we can remove those. And what we'll do is we'll utilise those inside the tent. So that'll be kind of to run our lights or anything else we kind of want to do. Just kind of keeps it a bit neater and tidier. So as you get to this point here, it's not a bad thing just to kind of make your way around. Now you've got these big elasticated points here as well, so they are actually to mainly peg the bottom of the skirt. But I mean, it means if any rain can come and shred off quite nicely, it's not going to kind of gather at any point. Again, with these, we'll peg directly out. Now, if you're a bit cunning, you probably use the same pegging point to do both the guy line and the storm strap. Admittedly, it's not completely quite as secure as that. But from each point of view, it does save a little bit of time. It does mean obviously one more is going through one than the other, but just keeps it nice and neat. I think aesthetically it looks a bit nicer. Get rid of the chair. You've also got the gussets down the bottom here as well, so that's another thing to be aware of. It just helps you give you ventilation even when the weather's not that great. So just by gutting that out, works really nicely. And again, we can do the skirts. What you find is there's a pegging point on the base to pull the beam directly out, and a separate one for that point there as well. again. Over these, I said, ideally you want to go nice and wide, just so you don't want to kind of over tension it either. So you want to be basically bringing the beam in. What you're looking to do is just have it so it's kind of nice and tight, not misshaping the actual side of the tent itself as well. So that's one thing that's very common. People like to sort of really kind of hone down the parts and sort of actually making too tight really. But it's just there to stop the tent going any further backwards rather than bring it any more than that. We've got multiple doors on those for your T46, so you can kind of create the setup you want to create. I've left the roof cover on, and personally I never take it off. It's something you can leave it all the time. That's, you notice the benefit of it. You never really use it without the roof cover, for that matter. Get these batteries out. Make sure you zip those off as well. One of these like waterproof cover. Like, it actually, to be fair, with the overall style of it, it's quite clever in the way they've done it. You don't really see a big discrepancy with the actual tent itself. It does. I think to the untrained eye, you wouldn't really probably appreciate that. Actually, you've got these spectacle panels here, and it works really quite nicely. So what we'll then do is we'll do the back. And to save you guys watching the whole last bit of it, we can just skip to probably the end point there, just to save you, because what we kind of replicate inside is exactly the same on the other side. There's no real differences. But what's the idea? Keep everything in line, keep it straight, get that back looking really quite nice and flush. And you can see the skirts popping out here. Again, that's really helping just push water away. So the idea behind it is the water's not going to come underneath the footprint. Because last thing you want to do is have water underneath the footprint and get trapped down there as well. The back guide point, almost 1 point, pegs the whole back vent of it. So that's really going to make life a bit easier. Less pegging points. Again, just gives you more room in that bed section. But the whole is the same on the other side. But that really is how you finish the pit carpet. Simple, quick and easy, and like I said, main kind of part that probably gets people's most annoyance about is obviously the actual punching. Whereas this, all of that's taken out of the equation. Like I said, you have also got the point where it's a little bit heavier and compensate for the quite high spec of the material as well. But the battery does all the work. So especially on a warm day, you want a bit more of a easy pitch. So that's kind of our little pitching video on the Opus T46. By all means, check out our review video, and we're also going to move on to a packing video as well. So we've got all the information there. Any more questions, queries about the tent, you can check our link below to our website, and feel free to comment in the box below. It's always great to hear good, bad, or whatever kind of feedback from you guys as well. So thank you very much for watching, and we can look forward to seeing you again in our next Attwoolls review video.